life is full of many great things to enjoy as given to us by God. One of those things is the gift and joy of friends and people who support us, help us through the most challenging times, and even make sacrifices for us. But just like almost every other thing, there is a flip side, which is that there are also those who hate us in life. There are people who we might choose to see as enemies in a sense of the word. Some people call them haters. Amongst them are those who are passive enemies, passive haters if you will, who do not plot evil actively against us, but dislike us, as well as will run away from offering us any form of help when they can. For them, they do not find it important or beneficial to assist those they hate, because they really do not care what happens to us, what challenge we go through. An example of this is an irate neighbor who sees you struggling with your car on the road, and simply drives by without stopping to ask or help, not caring about how long you stay or if you get the problem fixed. Or a classmate who will not share information with you which they know is vital. There are several examples of these passive enemies. But even worse than these group of people are enemies who are actively against you. They are people who consciously and deliberately plan evil and harm towards you. They spend hours, days, and several nights planning on how to harm you. They are plotters who seek ways for you to fall and crumble. They intentionally spread lies and falsehood about you. They try to block any opportunity of progress that God might bring your way, and they put in whatever resource and energy needed into achieving these evil plans. Think of those who persecute Christians all over the world, plan deadly attacks against those who name Christ, kill and maim believers, plant incriminating evidences against Christians, and raid the homes of believers. Such evil plans and plots are not just on a global scale, but are also found in little towns, villages, states. They cut across the private sector and the government sector. Both types of hatred and enmity, passive or active, are found amongst colleagues, siblings, relatives, fellowship members, neighbors, business partners, school and classmates, acquaintances, employers, employees, etc. Even little firms experience such active hatred within its ranks. How many times have we seen and heard of employees plot against fellow employees, or employers who make it really difficult for their staff deliberately? All these are only a few examples of how dangerous active enmity can be, yet, for the Christian that is not the end of the story. We are not hopeless, no. We have God, the owner of all the earth, potentate over his universe, all-powerful, all-wise, and all-knowing. This is our God who has promised to keep us and be with us now until the very end of the age. This gives us hope. It should give every believer so much hope that whatever they plan for harm, for evil, God can turn it around for your good. Psalm 1 verse 6 says, "For the Lord knows and is fully acquainted with the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly, those living outside God's will, shall perish, end in ruin and come to naught." Amplified Bible. This passage shows us the truth that God knows the ways of the righteous just as well as He knows the ways of the wicked too. And this means that none of the schemes and planning of the wicked is ever hidden from Him. He sees it all, He knows what they plan, and He will expose them. I love the hymn, "In Christ Alone." A part of a stanza says, "No power of hell, no scheme of man, shall ever pluck me from His hands, till He returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand." A good reminder that no matter what they plan and scheme, from a global or local point, If it is those close to us or those far away, whoever it is, no scheme of man can ever pluck us from God's hands. We are safe and secure from all alarm. And in due time, the Lord will expose them. We see this with Joseph, whose brothers betrayed him, selling him to traders and lied to their father that he was devoured by a wild beast. But after all, God had brought Joseph through and he revealed himself to them. All the harm they planned finally came to light. We also see this with Haman in the book of Esther, who planned to annihilate the Jews, but through Esther, God exposed his plans and caused that he was killed for his plot. He became the victim of his own poison. Maybe a story where we see this most reflected is that of Daniel. Daniel served as a top government official in King Darius, one of his administrators. And because Daniel distinguished himself in excellence in his work, he gained enemies from within the system. They looked for any grounds to find fault in him, but could not. Until finally, they suggested a wicked law to the king so that Daniel might be implicated. After making the king issue the decree of no one praying to any other but himself for 30 days, they reported Daniel who would not stop praying to God, and he was thrown into the lion's den as a result. The story was not yet over though. Contrary to what they thought, God shut the mouth of the lions, and as though the eyes of the king were opened, after Daniel had been brought out of the den unscathed, the king ordered that those who plotted against him should be thrown into the den instead, and also along with their families. Psalm 121 verse 4 says, "Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." Amplified Bible. This is the reflection of this passage, that God will expose the plans of those who want to harm you, that just like with Daniel, they will not succeed in their ways, but all their plans will come to nothing, because God sees and is in control of it all. Our thoughts and prayers whenever we reflect on the harm that people mean for us, when they scheme and plot against us, should be exactly what the psalmist, David, says in Psalm 23 verses 4 to 5. Yes, though I walk through the deep, sunless valley of the shadow of death, I will fear or dread no evil, for you are with me, your rod to protect, and your staff to guide, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my brimming cup runs over. Amplified Bible. For David, he knew that whatever the plot and plans against him, whatever he had to go through, wherever he was, God is able to preserve him. This must be our attitude well in the distress that comes from knowing people are meaning to harm you. God is able to turn what they meant for harm into my good. He is still in control.